Now let's try this again. Let's try this again. Make sure this is working here. Are we working? I think we're good.
Working?
Yes. All right. Sweet. We are good. We are good. All right. Perfect. So I'm just going to reshare the link for this with my team in the Courage community. So give me 1 second. Sharing a live stream link. Share that. Let me put it over here. Sharing the link. All right. So here we go. We are live, and welcome everybody to a market preview for next week. We're in a brand new month. I hope everybody had a successful trading month there in May. It was a very, very bullish month. When we look at the charts, we'll take a look at it on the monthly so you could see how dominant, in fact, the bulls were. It was pretty impressive, and now we're heading into a new month, June, which can tend to be a mixed bag, and really following all the bullishness that we had coming out of May. We're watching to see if we get continuation and if we're going to challenge the all-time highs, or if this was the retest rally that Jem Cresson was talking about and we are going to start heading lower. And those are the questions that we have to get answered here in the next couple of weeks, and it's going to be a fun month. And really the biggest event that's going to happen in June will be in the middle of the month. I believe it's the 17th. We'll take a look at the calendar here in a second. And that's going to be the Federal Reserve meeting. They're going to make a decision about a rate cut, and a rate cut is expected in this June meeting. And so we're going to not only get that rate cut decision, we know that that's always followed by the Jerome Powell press conference at 2:30 Eastern time. So we're going to get significant volatility out of that. And typically what happens is there will be momentum leading up to the event. And I talked about small caps being potentially poised to make a run. We could see that. There is an inverted head and shoulders pattern on the daily chart. And if there is growing optimism that rates are going to get cut, that's going to be beneficial for small caps. So we could see them run. So keep an eye out for that. The other thing that we're going to get in the middle of the month on that same day is going to be the rate cut projections for the remainder of 2025 and also 2026. So we're going to get some insight into where the Federal Reserve's mind is in terms of what they foresee in terms of rate cuts. And that's going to be something that traders and investors are paying very close attention to, and so should you. So just have that circled on your calendar. I believe that is the 17th of June. And the next day, the market is closed, the 18th, for the Juneteenth holiday. So we're going to get this huge rush of volatility there. The next day, the market's closed. So that Friday that follows could be pretty crazy. And in terms of earnings, we're through the bulk of the important earnings. We do get Avgo earnings, Broadcom. That'll be Thursday. MU still has yet to report. You do have some others that are going to report, but the big boys are done. The Mag 7 are done. And so really it's just, we're going to ride this out, and then we'll start our next cycle of earnings that will come in July. So that's kind of played itself out. But really in the summer, things tend to get a bit quiet in the markets. But I think these next 3 weeks still can have some power in them. And then also, too, when you have a president whose words can move the market in one way or the other, it's always an unknown in terms of what's going to happen. and we'll have to see, are we going to get a tweet tonight before futures open? Are we going to get a tweet tomorrow morning? Are we going to get an announcement about a trade deal or progress being made on a trade deal? We don't know, but all those things make it harder to really be married to any one side, bullish or bearish. And so you have to be in my opinion, you still have to be very fleet-footed in terms of your positions. I'm still not ready for long-term swing trades. There will be a point when I am. It's just not right now. So I continue to focus on the day trading piece. But what I'm going to do now is pull up. We're going to get into the charts. I do want to start just by looking at the data that's coming this week. And if you guys have questions or tickers that you want me to look at, I'd be more than happy to do that for you guys. So give me 1 second. It always takes me a minute to figure out how to get my my trading view shared here, because I'm still learning live streaming. This is all new for me. So I think I got it now. There we go. Now we are cooking. So you guys can see this. So I know that we're good. Yes. All right, we are. All right, so here we go. Let's just jump in. We're going to take a look at the data that is coming for us this coming week. So let's hop over. Can't believe it already, but here we go. Monday, June 2nd. We have 20 trading days this week, so just for your notes. And at 10 a.m., we are going to get ISM Manufacturing PMI, which is expected to come in slightly higher than the previous reading at 49.5. And keep an eye on that. Market makers will want to see that come in alignment with expectations or a little better, and that could give a nice little pop to the markets. So again, that's at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Then when we come over to Tuesday, June 3rd, we're going to get the JOLTS job openings, and that's supposed to come in at 7.1 million versus 7.192 million, the previous report. So again, we want to come in line or better with that number. So keep an eye on that. That will give us some insight into the health of the labor market. And really the first week of every month is really the insight into the labor market, because this is when you also get the unemployment rate, which we'll take a look at here. And you also get non-farm payrolls and JOLTS job openings. So that's going to tell us how healthy the job market is. When we come over to Wednesday, you're going to get ISM Services PMI, which is expected to come in at 52. Again, look for these things to come in line or better in order for there to be a nice move in the market. And if we come over to Thursday, not much doing. We do have quite a few Fed speakers this week. And then when we come over to Friday, this is where we're going to get the big time data. Non-farm payrolls, 130,000. It was 177 the previous time. And then we get the unemployment rate, which is expected to hold steady at 4.2. So that's the data for this week. And then the date for the Fed decision, that's actually the 18th of June. So here it is. I talked about that. We're going to get that at 2 p.m. along with the dot plot economic projections. That'll be at 2 p.m. followed by the Powell presser. So just have that on your radar that is coming. So that's really this is going to be the big event for June. All right. And let me just check to see if I had any questions or anything at this point. Okay, no questions. So we're just going to keep rolling through here. So just taking a look at the SPX, and you could see that we do have, it's as obvious and as plain as day, we have a double top pattern that has come in here. It's a higher high, lower high, double top. We could see our neckline right here at that 100 SMA in the daily, really this whole confluence of moving averages. So there's going to be a lot of support there that this is going to have to break through if it's to fall. And I see a lot out there saying, oh, it's a double top, we're coming down. But if you go look had a double top pattern over here, I thought that was a bug or something for a second. And when this started to play out, I'm sure the same thing was happening. People were saying, oh, look, we have a double top. And then what happened? We pushed up and made new highs before coming down and correcting into the 100 on the daily. So just because that pattern is shaping up does not mean that this thing is going to dump. And also pay attention to, after this dropped, look what kind of candle came in here. That's not a textbook hammer, but it is a hammerish candle. And what do we have that came in on Friday? Again, not a textbook hammer, but it is a hammerish candle following that drop. So just keep an eye on potentially what could happen here. And if we could push out of this, there is movement to the upside. So again, everything is news sensitive. If we get some positive news, we could see a push. And then also take a look too and see that quite a bit of bull volume on Friday. So we'll see if this continues to push higher. But really, it could go either way. You do have that double top pattern. You could see a drop, but there's quite a bit of support below here. But I'm going to go contrarian on this, and it might not happen right away. But I am seeing buyers here. I am seeing bull volume, and I think it's more likely that we are going to grind higher than we are going to drop lower yet. That doesn't mean that I think we're just going to rocket off to the moon and be done with it. I think there will be a pullback, but I don't think that's going to happen just yet. We come over to the Qs. Again, looks very similar. In this case, you have a lower high, higher high, double top. Here's our neckline. Same thing. You have a hammerish candle. You have buyers coming in here. Ticking bear volume here. But again, really same thing. And you could look to the left and see a similar pattern here that occurred on the Qs. So just because there's a double top does not mean that it's going to end up in a subsequent fall. So just keep that. And then just digging into the other broader markets, IWM, this is one I really want you to keep an eye on because it's been a laggard for quite some time. But if we do let's go back to last summer. And here we go. Here's April into May. It got up to around 208. It pulled back into June, but then into July, it did get a nice pop. So we could see some activity come back into IWM. They made its high in November off of the election hype. And notice too, you did have an inverted head and shoulders here that led to that move higher. And what do we have building out right now? You do have an inverted head and shoulders, as I mentioned at the start of the live stream, right? We could see that right here. And so there is resistance above us that we're going to have to break through in terms of the moving averages. Again, I'm a moving average trader. This is what I use in my trading. But we do have, it's right now, it's below that 10-day exponential moving average, but we have the 100 simple moving average on the daily above us, the 50 simple moving average on the weekly, and then the 200 on the daily. So it does have quite a bit to fight through. But if it does start getting some momentum from optimism of potential rate cuts, we could see it push through these moving averages rather quickly. And we could see once it gets above that 200, it's got a lot of space to really move. The DIA, Dow Jones Industrial, really same kind of look here, inverted head and shoulders pattern. Close above it on Friday, and this only has the point of control and the daily to get above before this one can run back up into all-time highs. So keep an eye on the Dow Jones. And then let's take a look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, after it ripped higher, it has pulled back a little bit. This is really not that big of a drop, about 8%. You can see we're back into this area where we just kind of moved sideways for about 2 weeks there into the end of May before it hit all-time highs. So we'll see if it continues to find support in here, or if it does come down a little bit lower. You could see this would be, well, this percent. I probably need to adjust this. Let's see. It's about 10% right here. So this would be 10% correction area. So let's see if we're going to find buyers come in here and we continue to grind out and up and eclipse all-time highs. But Bitcoin has taken a bit of a breather, which is a good thing. And that has to happen, especially when you have big moves like we saw on Bitcoin. But typically, you know, if we go back and look at the last time that Bitcoin hit all-time highs, that was in January. What followed after that with all-time highs? The broader markets, the SPX. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the S&P and other tickers maybe hit some new all-time highs before we start to cool off a little bit heading into later summer. Taking a look at the VIX, We did push up into that 50 simple moving average on the daily, got rejected, came back down. The volatility drained quite a bit on Friday, and we are below everything, but we still have that 100 below us. And we haven't been down below that 100 since February. So let's see if we can get a further drop in volatility this week. Probably not going to happen, but definitely watching it. We have had a lot of events pass, NVIDIA earnings, PCE, GDP, so all that's been cleared out. The biggest thing is going to be the Fed meeting. So we'll see if we're going to get a further drop. And then just taking a look at the 10-year Treasury, again, getting a view into the bond market. This is going to have to drop further in order for stocks to continue to push up. We have had 5 red days out of the last 6, but let's see if it can start crushing down through some of these moving averages. This is kind of a wonky looking inverted head and shoulders here. And, according to Jem Carson, he sees the 10-year getting up to 6%, which is way up here. Let me actually adjust this real fast. Coordinates 6. Okay. So that is quite a ways to go. And if that happens, interest rates are going to, it's not going to be good. So keep an eye on that. And you also had Jamie Dimon on Friday, who spoke at, I think it was the Reagan Economic Forum, and he said that the bond market is going to break. He sounded very confident from it, and he said that he stands to profit from it, he and JP Morgan. So it comes to fruition. But to me, looking at the broader markets, yes, we have 2 double top patterns on the Qs and the SPX. But again, those don't always play out. I do think we're going to get a push to all-time highs before we then correct and have a weak summer into the weaker months of August, September, and October. But I don't think we're ready to do that yet. And when you look at the IWM and Dow Jones, you can see you have those inverted head and shoulders patterns. So I think there are some opportunity that still exists and some reasons for optimism there. Again, if you guys have tickers, just go ahead and throw those in the chat that you want me to look at. And now I'm going to start getting into some individual tickers, some plays that I like. And I'm going to start with Apple here. This has been a laggard and a half. And I have this trend line that I drew here going back to January of 2023. And we broke through that when we made those lows off of the tariff tumble. And you could see since then that, first of all, that lined up with the 200 SMA on the weekly. We bounced out of there, and we found support along that trend line. And really, when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing support coming in, where I'm seeing buyers step in this area. So if we see here, buyers, we have that nice long lower wick there on that Dragonfly Doji, nice long lower wick here. And again, stepping in here as well. So there is support down in this range. And it's not to say we can't come back down into this 200 SMA on the weekly, but I just feel like this is a nice spot to start looking for some longs here on Apple, and it just happens to sit at that trend line too. Now, we do have some pretty important moving averages holding us down, the 100 SMA on the weekly, the 50 SMA on the daily. But above that, you have room up to 219. So I'm going to be watching Apple very closely for maybe some potential rotation out of other Mag 7 stocks into this. For example, let's say that Tesla dumps in June, which it may not, because it does have that robotaxi event. Robotaxis are supposed to go live in Austin, Texas. But let's say Microsoft cools off, or Meta, then we could see a rotation into Apple. I did a few scalps. If you go look at Apple at the end of the day on Friday, you just saw these pushes higher here, and I was able to capture some of these moves, and buyers were stepping in. So I think there could be some good opportunity watching it, and you can see I have it at the top of my list to keep an eye on for tomorrow. Palantir's chart looked interesting to me because look at all this bull volume that came in here. This is the most bull volume that we had since we had that big drop when we hit the April 7th lows. And that's a big, beautiful, massive candle that's really squeezing anybody who tried to short here. And notice we're not overbought yet on the RSI. So we could see another new all-time high. Seems like Palantir has Netflix syndrome. All it does is make all-time highs. So I'll be watching this to see if we get a push higher on Palantir tomorrow. Coming over to NVIDIA, and again, for accountability purposes, I had 150 as my target here after earnings, and it didn't get there. If we go into the 4-hour chart to see where it hit in pre-market, we actually got up to 143.88, almost 144, didn't quite get there. And then it started to sell down. And this aligned with Trump coming out and saying that China has violated their agreement with the US in terms of tariffs. So that sent things tumbling. And there was also some negative sentiment around chips. There was a news headline too. Let me see if I could find it. Let's see. Anyway, it was something related to sanctions or restrictions being put on the chip sector again. But just take a look at the structure that's being built out here. If we look back, so this is a 4-hour chart. If we just go back to, this is May 14th, you could see that this is a strong area of interest, that really things just kind of moved sideways for quite a bit of time. And all we did after we pushed up off of right back down into that area. And if we keep going back to the left, we could see that this also was a point of interest back in February. And then if you keep going back, last summer, this was an area where there was also some interest. And really, for the big drops that we've had on NVIDIA and the push up into the all-time high, which is like 153, it's kind of been sideways. And so it does eventually have to make a move, and it really has had a significant drop from all-time highs. If we measure this down, you know, that's a 44% drop. So I don't think the move is over for NVIDIA, but again, we're going to need that positive sentiment to come back into play. We're going to need some of this tariff noise to cool off. And so I don't think that this 150 is off the table just yet. And we see that this 10 held as a support. And you get a nice volume node here. So this is a point of interest. So keep one this week in terms of what it does. I don't think this move is done. And maybe by Friday, we're talking about into the 150 areas and hanging around. Let me just come over, see if there are any questions here in the chat. Don't see any questions. Let me just double check here. All right, not seeing any chat questions yet. Okay. All right, I'm just going to keep rolling through. Again, if you have tickers or questions, go ahead and throw those in there. Over to Tesla here. Tesla, same kind of thing. If we're looking to the left, this is something that I'm seeing here. Right now, we're at this point of interest where in the past, it's served as a resistance back in February. It was resistance back in November. It was a resistance back in early November, and holding as resistance. So are we going to come back down? Now, we did break above it right here into the end of December before we started that big move down. But let's watch to see if this area line is this going to flip into old resistance becoming new support. And let's actually change the color of this one. I don't want to change the text color. But I'm just watching to see if that's the case. Change the style. Here we go. Let's make this one pink to stand out. So that's what I'm watching. If we get above this and we come test this one more time and then push out of here, or are they going to cool Tesla off and we're going to see some rotation into Apple or into NVIDIA, and we see NVIDIA get back up into that 150 range? But I just thought this looked very interesting to me on the chart here. And again, you can keep going further back and you can see too, the Tesla's been above this area quite a few times. And if we could press back up through here, maybe watching that 384 area is the next point of resistance. I'm just going to go through the rest of the Mag 7. Google, I really like Google's chart here. You must have a double bottom pattern shaping up here. You got a nice hammer candle. And really, I put in my community today, it's got 2 men to beat before it can run. Like we're using a sports analogy here. But you have the 200 SMA on the daily. You have the 100 on the daily. It looks like the 50 on the weekly. So actually 3. But above there, above that 173.69 mark, you could see that it's smooth sailing back up to all-time high. So there's not much there in order for it to clear. So again, this one could run if it gets some good news. Let me go over to Microsoft, and I want to show you this monthly candle on this. Look at this. Is that awesome? I mean, big gap up on a monthly, and I went back to Microsoft to try to find something similar or comparable, and I went back to the inception of the ticker. I couldn't find anything. And so again, you would think there's going to be some continuation here before a retest. And so let's just watch for this all-time high to get broken. I'm going to mark this here, Microsoft all-time high. I'm going to put when does it break. I'm going to put when or if does it break. And let's see if on Microsoft in June. It's very, very close. Doesn't have much further to go, but this thing has been running pretty hard. And this daily chart pretty interesting too, because it's almost like a rounded top, which can indicate that you're going to get, a drop here. But we did have nice bullish volume come on Friday. We're a tiny bit overbought, but Microsoft looks like it wants to continue to go, and potentially, since it's been sideways, like I said, for really a year's time, when it breaks that all-time high and we get into what is known as price discovery, this one could run pretty significantly. So just keep an eye on Microsoft. Meta almost looks like the SPX, the broader markets to me, because you do have that double. Really, it kind of looks more like the Qs than the SPX. But you do have a nice hammer candle that came in there on Friday. Nice volume. And this one's been a little bit of a laggard too. It has recovered quite a bit since its drop. But if you remember, before it dumped, it was just on a tear before it hit its all-time high, 740.65, and dropped. Interested this week to see just what happens with the Mag 7 and to see if we do see some rotation. You do have a lot of nice setups there. And it's just going to be fun to watch it all play out. I'm really excited to see that. And then Amazon too. Amazon just kind of been a nothing burger. Same thing. You have a higher high, lower high, double top, hammer. You have the 100 that's above it. But if it gets above the 100, again, there's really nothing there to hold this thing back. So Amazon looks interesting as well. So there's a lot of really good looking setups out there this week. Let me just go through a few more here. And the trade desk, this is one that we looked at last week with this bull flag. Really, we're just kind of hanging tight, and the price is just being just hanging out, suspended in this area. This 100 SMA on the daily is acting as a resistance here. You could see above that, nothing until we get up until the 200 EMA on the daily, and then it's the 200 SMA. So quite a bit of room here, but to me, this price area sticking here says that buyers are interested and it's holding support. So I'm still continuing to watch the trade desk for a move. Jason asked me about stocks. I mean, this thing has just been on a tear as well. Look at that monthly candle. Woo! That's beautiful. And, you can see that the last few times, like if we look at a comparable size candle to this one, let's go back to the early days of Roblox. It hasn't been traded for that long. You go back to May of 21, and you can see that there was some selling pressure there. There's none here. So this is probably going to get a little bit more action to the upside before getting a bit of a retest. So this one may not be done. Maybe it'll get up into the 90s, and then it'll cool off for a little bit before setting up to give people an opportunity to take it long. UNH, I mean, it's holding here. It's holding, but these candles don't look that impressive. So let's see if it'll fall again. I'm still hanging on for that 188.06 mark. My Scrooge McDuck, Ebenezer Scrooge, my cheapness. I'm not going long on this one until I can get it down here. If I do, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing pop, fill the gap, and I also wouldn't be surprised to see it drop either, because this just looks kind of tepid and weak right now. So not much doing there on UNH. Celsius Holdings, this is another one that is hovering. Oh, low battery. All right, well, I'm gonna have to, but it's just been hovering in this mid-30s price area, building support. This one could get a push. It's got that 200 on the weekly above it, and you know, from there it does have room up to 49, so keep an eye on that one. And I'll do two more. I'm going to look at Roku, because I really do like the Roku chart right now. And this is finding nice support. And this Roku chart almost reminds me of Roblox. Now, the all-time high on Roku is massive, 492. But before Roblox broke out, it did a lot of this, just kind of chopping around in an area. You could see it would get up in that 100 area, but couldn't hold it. But this is a nice double bottom. We're retesting the neckline, and we are close to getting above all those moving averages. And from there, there's plenty of room for it to run. So don't sleep on Roku, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that one get a push here over the next few days. And let me just check to see if I have any questions, because I don't want to not answer those before my computer dies. And it doesn't look like I do. And I'm going to do one more, and that's BlackRock, and this is for Paulo. And just taking a look. So this one kind of looks like the SPX, right? Double top, higher high, lower high, but still looks strong. Decent volume that came in, hammerish type candle, no moving averages above it. This one could run. So looks pretty decent to me. All right. So here, what does it all mean? So when I look at the charts, there are plenty of out there. There's actually a lot of setups that I like to the upside. And I know that kind of goes against the double top that's out there, but it's all going to be news dependent, catalyst dependent. So I am watching to see what happens and transpires, but I am Apple's at the top of my list. I'm watching Roku. I think Palantir could be a nice little day trade tomorrow if it gets a push. But we have to see what's going to go on with this tariff nonsense, if it's going to continue to weaken the markets. But it should be another fun week, that is for sure. So that's it. That's the live stream for today. This will be up for you guys to watch. Check it out. If you have questions, just you can reach out to me. Email is couragepaysbetter@gmail.com. You can comment on this video. If you have a video you'd like me to put together for you, let me know. I'm continuing to expand the channel. A lot of cool stuff coming in the month of June. A lot of cool new videos. A lot of new series I'm going to be starting. But I'm bullish. There's a double top on the SPX. There's double tops out there. The textbook response is, oh, go short. I'm not looking short. Now remember, I'm not swing trading yet. I'm not ready to go super heavy position swing trades, but I see a lot of setups out there. But I'm waiting and being patient before I take something. And let's go. Let's make it a great week. And I appreciate all you guys supporting the channel. Thank you, Jason. And if you guys need anything, let me know. I'm here to help you, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Make it a great day. Take care, everybody.